A week after burying my husband, I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. That's when my phone buzzed with a message from my eldest son. 5 words that made my blood run cold. Start packing. House is sold. And then the last line. Get ready for the nursing home. My own child deciding my life like I was an old piece of furniture to be thrown away. But as I read those words, a strange calm washed over me because they had no idea what I was hiding. No idea that my late husband left me something they could never touch. So I smiled and I started packing. Just not for where they think. So before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you so much if you've already done it, and let me know in the comments which state or country you're watching from. So now, let's continue our story. The message popped up while I was rinsing my coffee mug. Start packing. House is sold. Get ready for the nursing home. My fingers froze around the handle, and for a second, I wondered if grief had made me hallucinate. But no. Mark's name glared at me from the screen. I read it twice, then a third time, the words burning into my chest like acid. House is sold. Nursing home. A laugh almost escaped my throat, sharp and bitter, but it died before reaching my lips. I set the mug down slowly, as if any sudden move might make my world collapse faster than it already had. My son, my firstborn, the one I stayed up nights, for when he had colic, the one I prayed for through every exam, every heartbreak. He didn't even bother calling, just a text. My thumb hovered over the phone. I wanted to type something. What are you talking about? Who gave you that right? But my hands were shaking too much. The screen blurred for a second, and I blinked hard. No tears. Not now. Not for this. The phone rang before I could respond. His name flashed again. My stomach knotted as I swiped to answer. Mark. Finally, he said, like I'd kept him waiting. Did you get my text? I did. My voice came out softer than I wanted. Explain. There's nothing to explain, Mom. We found a buyer, cash offer. Gregory handled everything. He sounded proud, like he just closed a business deal, not stolen the home where his father and I built our life. Gregory, Lisa's cousin. Yeah, he's a realtor. Got us a great deal. Quick close. Us. The words scraped out of my throat like broken glass. Mom, don't make this difficult. Claire and I talked about this for weeks. That house is too big for you. It's falling apart. And let's be honest. You can't afford the upkeep. That's not true, I whispered. Dad's pension barely covers your meds. His tone sharpened. Don't pretend. We know the truth. The truth? I almost laughed again. They knew nothing. But I stayed quiet, gripping the counter so hard my knuckles whitened. You'll be better off, he continued. Claire's basement is perfect. Private entrance, your own bathroom. We'll make it nice for you. My chest tightened. My son was talking about me like a piece of old furniture, something to relocate, out of the way, but accessible when needed. Mark, I said slowly, fighting to keep my voice steady. You sold my house without asking me. It's for your own good, he snapped. You're grieving. You're not thinking straight. We are. My breath hitched for a moment. Silence stretched so long I could hear my pulse in my ears. I'm hanging up now, I said quietly. Don't, he barked. Gregory needs your signature tomorrow. Will, bring the papers. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. He hung up before I could answer. I stood there, the phone still pressed to my ear, staring at nothing. Tomorrow. They were giving me one day to erase 35 years of my life, like it was nothing more than a transaction. My legs felt heavy as I walked to the living room. The family photos on the mantel blurred in my vision. Mark in his graduation gown, Claire holding her newborn, David and me on the porch the summer we paid off the mortgage. Paid off, I whispered, the words out loud, letting them steady me. They thought they knew everything. They thought I was weak. They thought I had no choice. I sank into David's chair, the one that still held his shape and stared at the silent phone in my hand. My heart thudded, not with despair this time, but with something sharper, colder. They had no idea what I was capable of. I kept staring at the text from Mark long after the call ended, my mind pulling me back to that awful day when I buried David. The air at the cemetery had been heavy with polite words and casseroles stacked in the car. People hugged me, said things like, "He was a good man," and then moved on. But my children, my own blood, barely looked at me. They stood off to the side, whispering like two kids conspiring in the kitchen when they thought I couldn't hear. I remember the way Mark leaned toward Claire, his hand slicing through the air as he spoke, and her nodding quickly, her eyes darting toward me before sliding away. I'd told myself then that they were planning something sweet. Maybe a trip to cheer me up, maybe deciding who'd visit first. How stupid was that? The truth hit me now like a punch to the ribs. They weren't planning comfort. They were planning control. My heart throbbed as I walked into David's study, the room that still smelled faintly of him. I'd avoided it for weeks, afraid of what memories would crush me inside. But now, fear had a different shape. My fingers trembled as I pulled, the bottom drawer open, and saw it. The blue folder David told me about months ago. His voice echoed in my head, low and calm. "If things ever get ugly, you'll know what to do." I slid it out and placed it on the desk, my breath catching as I flipped it open. Bank statements all in my name. Investment portfolios healthier than I ever imagined. And then the shock that made my knees weaken. A property deed, Napa Valley, a villa paid in full. My hand went to my mouth as if to keep from gasping out loud. "David, what did you do?" And then I saw it. An envelope taped inside the folder with my name scrolled in his handwriting. "Read only when you're ready." My eyes burned, but I didn't open it yet. Not yet. I pressed it to my chest instead, letting the weight of it anchor me. The phone buzzed in my pocket, jerking me out of the moment. Another message from Mark. "Gregory's client needs your signature tomorrow. Don't make this hard." My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles ached. They thought they held all the cards. They thought I was broken, too lost in grief to fight. I placed the envelope back in the folder, locked the drawer, and straightened my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, my tears dried on their own. Tomorrow, they'd come expecting obedience. They'd find something else entirely. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mark's text blinking in the dark. "Start packing." I sat at the kitchen table, untouched casserole in front of me. When the phone rang, his name lit up the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. "Mom," he said, voice clipped like a man handling a stubborn client. "We need to finalize details." "What details?" I asked quietly. "The move, the house sale. Gregory says the buyer wants a quick close. Mark, you keep saying buyer like this is a done deal." "It is almost," his tone sharpened. "Don't drag this out. It's better for everyone." "Better for you," I whispered before I could stop myself. "Excuse me?" "Nothing," I said. My chest burned, but I held my voice steady. "Where exactly do you expect me to live while you sell my home?" "We've thought about that," he said quickly. "Claire has space. Her basement's finished. You'll have your own entrance, bathroom, everything." "A basement?" The words scraped my throat raw. "It's nice," he insisted. "Better than rattling around alone in that big house. You can help Claire out, too. She's been swamped with the kids. A little cooking, maybe some laundry. It'll keep you busy." My nails dug into my palm until I felt a sting. Cooking, laundry, they weren't offering me a home. They were offering me a job. "You planned this without even asking me." "Don't make it sound like a conspiracy," he snapped. "Claire and I had dinner, discussed options. We're looking out for you." "Options!" My voice shook now, not from fear, but fury building slow and hot. "You, Call deciding my life without me an option? Silence hummed on the line. Then Mark exhaled, frustrated. You're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. We are. Trust us. Trust. The word made something twist in my gut. Trust was dead, buried with David. I swallowed hard, forcing calm into my tone. And what happens to my things? We'll handle it, he said quickly. Gregory has a storage solution if you can't sort everything. Honestly, Mom, this is a win-win. Win-win. My laugh burst out sharp, startling even me. You think uprooting me from my home, shoving me in a basement, and selling what's mine is a win? Stop being dramatic, he said. We're trying to help you. Help me. The words made my skin crawl. I stared at the blue folder still locked in David's desk, felt its weight in my mind. They thought I was weak, dependent, clueless. They had no idea. I need time, I said finally, each word slow, deliberate. You don't have time, Mark shot back. Gregory's client wants this fast. We'll come by tomorrow with the papers. Sign them and we can all move on. He hung up before I could answer. The quiet pressed against me until I could barely breathe. My hands trembled as I pushed the cold casserole aside and stared at the kitchen wall. They'd had dinner without me. Planned my life like I was furniture. My pulse pounded in my ears, and for a moment, despair threatened to swallow me whole. Then my eyes drifted to David's study door. My jaw clenched. No, this wasn't the end. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Either. The clock ticked past midnight while I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word Mark had thrown at me. Sign the papers. Basement. Nursing home. I could almost hear David's voice in my head. If things ever get ugly, go see Connie. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I walked into Connie West's office, gripping my purse so tight my fingers hurt. She greeted me kindly, but when I sat down, the words tumbled out. Mark says the house is sold. They want me out tomorrow. Her eyes narrowed. Sold? Without your signature? That's what I said, I whispered. They act like they have all the control. Connie opened a file drawer, pulled out a thick folder, and slid it across the desk. They don't, she said calmly. David planned for this. My heart thudded as I flipped. It opened. Every account, every asset, my name alone, the house, the savings, even investments I didn't know about. Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. But then Connie's voice cut through. You're protected for now. But if they try to challenge your competency, the court could intervene. Challenge my what? I blinked at her. Your mental state, she said softly. If they claim you can't manage your affairs, they could push for guardianship. My stomach turned. Mark's words slammed back into my mind. You're grieving. You're not thinking straight. They've already mentioned an evaluation, I murmured. That's their play then, Connie said. You need to be careful. Everything you do from this point matters. I nodded slowly, gripping the edge of her desk until my knuckles ached. Careful? I'd be more than careful. I'd be ready. Connie handed me a sealed envelope with David's handwriting across the front. My chest tightened at the sight of it. He left this for you, she said. My throat burned as I traced his name with my finger. I wanted to rip it open right there, but I couldn't, not yet. I slipped it into my bag, feeling its weight like a secret heartbeat. Then Connie pushed something else toward me. A bank card. He called this your independence fund, she said softly. $100,000. Do you want me to block any sale attempts? For a moment, I pictured Mark and Claire's faces when their plan collapsed. The thought almost warmed me, but I shook my head slowly. Not yet, I said, my voice steady now, stronger than it had been in weeks. Let them think they're winning. Connie studied me for a long moment, then nodded. As I walked out of that office, clutching David's envelope and that bank card, something shifted deep inside me. The fear that had been strangling me since the funeral loosened its grip. My children thought they were the smartest people in the room. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. I walked into the house and shut the door behind me, leaning against it for a moment. My fingers brushed the envelope in my bag. David's handwriting burned into my mind, but I didn't open it. Not yet. I needed a clear head. My phone buzzed again. Mark. I stared at the screen, then swiped to answer. Mom, he said, his voice lighter than before, like everything was settled. You've had time to think. Ready to do the right thing? I've been thinking, I said softly, forcing warmth into my tone. Maybe you're right. Maybe the house is too big. Silence, then a laugh of relief. Finally. Thank you, Mom. I'll tell Gregory. Don't rush, I said quickly. I'd like one more night here for memories. He hesitated. Okay, but don't change your mind. I won't, I lied, my heart pounding. When the call ended, I sank into the chair and stared at the empty boxes I'd brought up from the basement. They were supposed to hold my life, the pieces I'd take to Claire's basement like a guest in my own family. Instead, I started filling them with everything that wasn't mine anymore. Mark's trophies, Claire's photo albums, the old piano sheet music she loved. I labeled each box with their names in bold black marker. Let them unpack the reminders of what they threw away. As I taped the last box shut, the phone rang again. Claire, this time. Mom, Mark said you agreed, she chirped. I'm so glad. The basement is going to be cozy. I'll set up a little corner for your crafts. Crafts? I almost laughed. I'm not dead yet, Claire. She chuckled awkwardly. I didn't mean... Look, this is what's best. You won't have to worry about bills or repairs. You can just relax. Sounds perfect, I murmured, though every word tasted like ash. Thank you, honey. Of course, she said brightly. We'll come by tomorrow. Bring the kids to say goodbye to the house. Goodbye. My throat tightened, but I forced a smile into my voice. That'll be nice. When she hung up, I opened my laptop and booked the flight, one way to San Francisco. Early morning departure. My hands didn't shake this time. I sent an email to Julia, the property manager for the villa, confirming my arrival. Then I called a moving company. 2 trucks, I said calmly. Tomorrow morning, everything labeled, delivered to 2 addresses. I'll provide them. As I spoke, I slid the villa key out from its hiding place behind a framed family photo on the mantel. I turned it in my hand, metal cool against my skin. A.E. Quiet promise. They thought I'd be packing for a basement. They had no idea. The movers arrived just after sunrise, their boots thudding against the porch as they carried the first boxes out. I stood in the hallway, calm on the outside, but my pulse drummed in my ears. Every box they took was labeled, in thick black letters, Mark or Claire. Their things, their memories. Let them unpack the pieces of a mother they thought they could control. I was tucking the last roll of tape into a drawer when the front door slammed open so hard it rattled the walls. What the hell is going on? Mark's voice cut through the house like a blade. He stood there, face flushed, papers in one hand, phone in the other. Behind him, the movers froze mid-step. Good morning, I said, smoothing the front of my dress. You're early. Early, he stomped forward, waving the stack of documents. I told you we were coming to get your signature, not to find. Half the house gone. What the hell are you doing? Packing, I said simply. Just like you told me. Don't play games with me, Mom. His voice rose, raw with fury. Where is everything going? Gregory said a lot of things. I cut in, my voice cool now. None of which concerned me. His jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle twitch. You're making a mistake, a huge mistake. You think you can just, what? Move out on your own? Live off scraps? This isn't a joke. I took a slow step closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. The only joke here is you thinking you run my life. He blinked, thrown off for a split second, then sneered. You're not thinking straight. You're emotional, confused. Stop. The word cracked through the air before I even realized I'd said it. Do not stand in my house and talk to me like I'm a child. This home is mine, paid for. Every brick, every tile, yours? None of it. His face reddened. We were trying to help you. Help me? I laughed, sharp and hollow. By selling my home behind my back? By planning to shove me in a basement like an unwanted pet? That's your idea of help. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. For a moment, just silence and the distant thud of movers setting another box on the truck. Then his phone lit up and Claire's name flashed across the screen. He jabbed at it, putting her on speaker. She's losing it, he barked. She's sending everything away. What? Claire's voice shrilled through the speaker. Mom, what are you doing? We told you this was for your own good. For my good? I repeated slowly, tasting each word like poison. No, Claire, this was for your greed. Excuse me? She snapped. You have no idea the stress we're under trying to manage all this. Manage what? I cut her off, my voice like ice now. My life, my money, my choices. That ends today. Don't be dramatic, she said, tone dripping with condescension. Just sign the papers and stop making this harder than it needs to be. My heart thudded, but my voice didn't waver. The sale isn't happening. The house isn't yours to sell. It never was. Silence. For a second, I could almost hear Claire breathing on the other end. Then she screamed so loud the speaker crackled. What? Do you mean it's not being sold? I smiled slow and deliberate, locking eyes with Mark as I said exactly what I said. His face shifted. Shock, then rage, then something like fear. That flicker of fear was all I needed. Mark stood there, jaw tight, fists clenched like he wanted to slam something. Claire was still screeching through the phone, her voice shrill, enough to make my ears ring. What do you mean it's not being sold? She shouted again. I mean exactly what I said, I repeated, calm now, because the power in that truth was better than air in my lungs. You can't sell what you don't own. We'll see about that, she hissed. You think you're smart, Mom? You think you can play us? The line went dead, and I almost laughed at the irony. Play you, if only you knew. Mark shoved his phone in his pocket and glared at me. You're going to regret this? Maybe, I said softly. But not today. His face flushed deep red as he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. The movers glanced at me, unsure. Keep going, I told them. My voice didn't even crack. When the last box left the hall, I sat down with my laptop. Something in me said, check. Check everything. My hands hovered over the keyboard as a sick thought crawled up my spine. I logged into David's old business account, the one that still held the remnants of years of work, the one he'd hoped to leave untouched for emergencies. My chest tightened when the numbers flashed on the screen. Half gone, nearly 50,000 drained in the last 2 weeks. Transfers to an account under Mark's name. My stomach turned so hard I gripped the table for balance. They hadn't just planned to sell the house. They were already bleeding me dry. A sharp, bitter laugh tore from my throat before I could stop it. So that was the game. Stripped me of everything, then shoved me in a basement. My phone buzzed again. An email this time. The subject line made my blood run cold. Notice of competency evaluation. I opened it with trembling hands and read the words over and over until they blurred. Claire had filed a request for a mental health assessment. They were going to use the law to cage me. They thought they were clever. They thought they had time. But my ticket was already booked. 24 hours, and I'd be gone. I closed the laptop slowly, the rage in me cooling into something sharper, something solid. Fear was gone. Pity was gone. All that was left was resolve. They wanted a war. They were about to get one. My phone dinged again, but this time, the sound didn't sting. It made me smile. A flight reminder glowed across the screen. Your flight to San Francisco. Check in now. The house was quiet. Too quiet for a place that had seen decades of laughter, slammed doors, birthday candles, and Christmas mornings. I walked slowly through each room, fingertips grazing the walls as if memorizing the texture of my life before. It vanished from their reach. Every box was gone now, labeled with the names of the children who thought they could erase me. On the kitchen counter, I left 2 envelopes, one for Mark, one for Claire. Inside were family photos, recipes in my handwriting, and a single note. This is the last thing you'll ever take from me. I stared at the words for a long time before folding them. My chest tightened, but I didn't cry. Not anymore. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket, Mark's name flashing, then Claire's, then Mark again. I ignored them. Their messages rolled in, one after another. Mom, answer me. You're being ridiculous. You're going to regret this. Sign the papers. Stop this now. I powered the phone off and slipped it into my bag, a calmness settling over me like armor. The driver pulled up just as the movers left. He didn't ask questions when he saw the 2 suitcases at my feet. Airport? He asked. Airport? I said, sliding into the back seat without looking back at the house. My heart thudded as the car pulled away, the familiar streets blurring past the window. I thought of David, then of his quiet smile, the way he'd squeeze my hand whenever life felt too heavy. His voice whispered in my head, "Don't let them shrink your world." I clung to that as the terminal came into view. The line at security moved slowly, and every minute I expected to hear my name shouted behind me, see Mark storming through the crowd. But no one came. By the time I reached the gate, my phone was on again. Not for them, but for one thing only, the confirmation email glowing like a lifeline. Your flight to San Francisco departs at 2:15, my boarding group was called, and as I handed over my ticket, the phone vibrated in my hand one last time, a voicemail from Claire. I pressed play and listened as I walked down the jet bridge. Her voice was ice. "You're making a mistake, Mom. You think you're free? You're not. We'll find you, and when we do, you'll wish you'd listened." I smiled, slipped the phone into my bag, and stepped onto the plane without a word. When the wheels lifted off the ground, I opened David's envelope at last. Just one line written in his strong, steady hand. "If you're reading this, you've chosen freedom. Good. The rest of your life starts now." The sunlight hit me like a promise as I stepped out of the car and looked up at the white stucco walls. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just a house. It was freedom carved in stone. I trailed my hand along the cool rail as Julia, the property manager, met me at the door with a warm smile. "Mrs. Bennett," she said softly. "Welcome home." Home? The word felt strange on my tongue. "David told me all about this place," she continued, as we walked through the entryway, her voice echoing against high ceilings and polished floors. "He said you loved open spaces. He wanted it perfect for you." My throat tightened. He really thought of everything. Julia nodded gently. "He adored you. Said this would be your sanctuary." I smiled faintly, even as my chest ached. He was right. We moved through the rooms, the sunlit kitchen with marble counters, the living area that opened onto a terrace overlooking endless vineyards. I paused at the sliding glass doors, staring out at the rolling green hills, a sharp contrast to the boxed-in life Mark and Claire had planned for me. Julia handed me a small key on a silver ring. "Everything's in working order. The wine cellar's stocked. I'll let you settle in." She left me there, the silence settling around me like a soft blanket. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled without feeling a knot in my chest. I walked into the kitchen, running my fingers over the drawers until one stuck slightly. I tugged it open and froze. Inside was a folded piece of paper, my name in David's handwriting. I sank into a chair before my legs gave out and opened it slowly, my hands trembling. Just one line. If you made it here, it means you chose yourself. I'm proud of you. The tears came before I could stop them, blurring the ink until it bled into the paper. I pressed it against my heart, whispering into the empty room. I did it, David. I chose me. My phone buzzed on the counter, jerking me back. The screen lit, up with a name that made my breath hitch, Kathleen, my granddaughter. For a second, I stared at it, unsure if I could take another blow, but then I swiped to answer, my voice barely steady. Grandma. Her voice cracked like she'd been crying. I need to talk to you. Please don't hang up. Grandma. Her voice cracked, like glass, and my heart clenched so hard it stole my breath. Kathleen, I whispered, gripping the phone tighter, bracing for whatever was coming. I'm so sorry, she burst out before I could say more. I should have called sooner. I should have asked. I believed them, Grandma. I believed everything Mom said. My throat tightened. What did she tell you? That you were broken, that you all needed space? That calling would stress you out? She said you couldn't handle conversations, that you barely remembered things. I closed my eyes, fury and heartbreak twisting together. She told you that? Yes, Kathleen whispered, her voice trembling. And I believed her because I didn't think my own mother would lie about something like that. But then I saw the paperwork. My breath caught. What paperwork? The competency evaluation, she said, her tone sharp now. Mom and Uncle Mark were planning to have you declared mentally unfit so they could manage everything. I heard them arguing about it on the phone last night. I swear, Grandma, I nearly threw up. My nails dug into my palm until it stung. So it was true. They were ready to strip me of everything, even my name on my own life. Kathleen, I said slowly, forcing calm into my voice, even as my hands shook. Thank you for telling me. Don't thank me, she choked out. I hate myself for staying quiet this long. I didn't even call you after Grandpa's funeral because Mom said you needed time. I let her erase me from your life. You're here now, I whispered. That's what matters. No, she said, her voice steadying. It's not enough. I want to make this right. Tell me where you are. I'll come. I don't care what Mom says. I'm done with her lies. My heart thudded, torn between fear and relief. Kathleen, I don't want you. Caught in the middle. Too late, she said. They already dragged me into it when they used me as an excuse for their greed. Grandma, please, I need to see you. I booked a flight. I just need your address. I gripped the phone, staring out at the vineyard bathed in gold light. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to hope. All right, I murmured. I'll send it. She exhaled shakily, then lowered her voice. One more thing. Don't tell Mom I called. Not yet. Why? Because if you do, she'll know I heard everything, Kathleen said, her tone fierce now. And I need time to tell you what else they planned next. My stomach dropped. What else? I can't say over the phone, she whispered. Just promise me you'll wait for me before you make any big moves. Please. I stared down at David's letter. Still on the counter, the ink smudged where my tears had fallen. Big moves. Oh, my sweet girl, they've already begun. I promise, I said softly. But inside, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I waited on the terrace, the vineyard glowing under the soft orange of late afternoon, my chest tight with something I couldn't name. Fear, hope, both tangled together. The crunch of tires on gravel made me stand, heart racing. When the taxi door opened and Kathleen stepped out, my breath caught. She looked nothing like the polished young woman Claire paraded at family dinners. No designer coat, no perfect hair, just jeans, a messy bun, and a face streaked with tears. The moment her eyes met mine, she ran. "Grandma!" she gasped, wrapping her arms around me so tight I felt her shaking. I'm so sorry. My throat burned. As I held her, my hands cradling the back of her head like I was afraid she'd vanish. You're here, I whispered. That's all that matters. She pulled back, wiping her face with her sleeve. I hate them, she said fiercely. I hate what they've done to you and to me. Kathleen, no. Listen, her voice cracked. They told me you were losing your memory, that you couldn't handle anything, that you begged them for help. I believed. Them. God, I feel sick even saying that. My stomach nodded, but I cupped her cheek gently. You trusted your mother. That doesn't make you bad. It makes me blind, she spat, tears glinting in her eyes. Do you know what they planned next? My pulse jumped. What? She lowered her voice, though we were alone. They've been talking to a lawyer about getting guardianship over you. Not just the house, Grandma, everything. Your accounts, your choices, your life. They said once that's done, they can handle the assets properly. The words hit me like a stone to the chest, but instead of breaking me, they sharpened something inside. So it was true. They wanted to strip me down to nothing, sign away my freedom like it was theirs to give. They'll never touch my life. Again, I said softly, and this time it wasn't hope speaking, it was steel. Kathleen swallowed hard. Good, because if they try, they'll have to go through me first. Her hands trembled as she reached for mine. Grandma, I don't want to go back there. I can't. Not after what I've heard, what I know now. Kathleen, I started, but she cut me off with a breathless rush of words. Can I stay, please? I'll get a job, transfer schools, whatever it takes. Just don't send me back to them. My heart twisted at the raw fear in her voice, the same fear that had lived in me since the funeral. I squeezed her hands, feeling the weight of her choice, the final crack in the perfect picture Claire had tried so hard to frame. You don't ever have to go back, I whispered, pulling her into my arms again. She clung to me like she was drowning, and I was the only thing keeping her afloat. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't alone in this fight. But as the sun dipped lower and the shadows stretched across the terrace, one thought burned in the back of my mind. If they were willing to go this far, they wouldn't stop now. And that meant the real battle hadn't even begun. The mornings in Napa had a way of softening everything, even the sharpest memories. I sat on the terrace with a journal open in front. Of me, the words slow and deliberate as I wrote about the storm I'd walked through. Not for anyone else to read, just for me to remember the woman who almost let herself be caged and the one who refused. Kathleen's laughter floated from the kitchen, the clatter of dishes following it, and for the first time in months, the sound didn't make me ache. It made me breathe easier. She stepped out with 2 glasses of lemonade, sunlight catching in her hair. Grandma, she said, settling into the chair beside me. Do you ever miss them? The question landed heavier than I expected. I stared out at the rows of vines stretching into the horizon, thinking of Mark's cutting tone, Claire's cold words, all the years I spent loving them without question. I miss who I thought they were, I said finally, my voice even. Not who they turned out to be. She nodded slowly, tracing the rim of her glass with her finger. They still email me, you know. Mom sends these fake, cheery messages like nothing happened. Mark just sends links about investments. A faint smile tugged at my lips. And you? I delete them, she said simply, her eyes meeting mine with a defiance that made me proud. They don't deserve answers. I reached over and squeezed her hand. Neither do I whispered, surprising myself. I've spent enough of my life giving them everything. This is mine now. She smiled then, the kind of smile that told me she understood more than words could say. Grandma, she said softly, leaning back in her chair. What else didn't they know about you? I looked at her and the endless sky behind her, and for The first time in years, I felt that spark of something wild and untamed. My lips curved into a grin. Everything I said, and I meant it.